Hi, my name is Forrest. Not joking. It's actually Forrest. And yes, I love our forests. My confession? Hearing the truth about carbon dioxide was hard. But you, like me, deserve the truth. In this video are the undeniable records from all global climate centers. There are no higher authorities. And it's serious. Our biosphere is at risk because of human error. I hope you enjoy the video, and please don't kill the messenger. I might have to sick Bambi on you. It's time to stop the lies that kill animal habitat and the beauty of Earth. Global warming is documented by undeniable records that show the effects of CO2, Earth's oxygen of life, on the climate. Let's look at those undeniable records. It's time to get serious about global warming. Did you know that the highest authorities on climate change disagree with activists that claim that oxygen of life causes global warming? These climate scientists would be first to tell you that they are not the highest authorities. In science, the highest authorities are always undeniable records. In this case, undeniable records are triple verified by scientists and then validated by every climate center in the world. Those records, costing billions of dollars to create, track how oxygen of life affects climate change. Welcome to Global Warming 180, an introduction to climate cause and effect. You will be confronted by real climate records. Science is harsh. If your belief is contrary to those records, then your theory is wrong or incomplete. Ready? The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, maintains the only real-time record of global CO2, the concentration of oxygen of life in the atmosphere. It also maintains a global sea surface temperature record. For climate change, RSS, one of 7 institutions that tracks global temperatures, was chosen to make a point. A friend of climate activists, it shows the largest increase in climate change. A cause of climate change must follow scientific law. Causal events must precede the highs and lows of climate change. Adheres to the second law of thermodynamics, hot warms cold, cold warms colder, and based on theoretical and observed physics. An example is sea surface temperatures. The seas absorb solar heat and lose that heat to the atmosphere in complex ways over time via radiation, evaporation, and conduction. Physics, check. With 85% of sea surfaces warmer than the air directly above it, second law of thermodynamics, check. But do sea surface temperature events precede the highs and lows of climate change? If actual evidence is not found, then the theory is unsupported. Real-time records date back to 1980. In the first 3 years, sea surface temperatures dropped and then peaked. Global climate followed by the time it takes that heat to spread globally. But does possible cause-effect continue? Yes, it does, as well as we'd expect of a partial proxy of the actual causes of climate change. But can the same be said of oxygen of life? No need to discuss details. Physics, check. Second law of thermodynamics, check. But is there evidence in climate records of positive forcing to support consensus theory? As you can see for yourself, no, not even close. Oxygen of life has strong seasonality. Climate change does not. Oxygen of life has a systematic rise. Climate change has huge swings caused by ocean events like the bursts that follow El Nino or like the plunges that follow La Nina. Most important, there is no variability in oxygen of life that can remotely explain the variability of climate change. But let's not use words. Let's do the math. Here we contrast what happens to climate after the smallest and largest rises in oxygen of life. We are told that if we limit oxygen of life, that global warming will stop, and if we don't, Earth will burn up. But do the highest authorities in climate science, actual climate records, agree? The average change in oxygen of life since 1980 has been about 0.5% per year, and average climate change has been plus 0.02 degrees C per year. The lowest one-year change in oxygen of life ended on August 1982, a near zero change. Did climate improve? No, climate got worse. It accelerated by 0.28 degrees C, but one data point does not make a case. Here, taken directly from climate records, we'll see in order the next 99 smallest rises in oxygen of life, and here the climate change that followed. When oxygen of life grew the least, the climate got worse. The largest one-year change in oxygen of life ended on September 1998, a whopping 1% change. Did Earth burn up? No. Climate cooled. 0.36 degrees C. Yes, climate cooled. Here, taken directly from climate records, we'll see in order the next 99 largest rises in oxygen of life, and here the climate change that followed. When oxygen of life had record increases, the climate cooled an average of 0.12 degrees C each year. Astounding, complete opposite of what activists claim, which raises the question, is this just a fluke of the RSS climate record? So let's check the records of every climate center in the world. First, does slowing the restoration of oxygen of life to the air stop or slow global warming? If it did, then we should see global warming decrease. The white lines show that all climate centers verify that global warming is real. But after a period of activist utopia where growth in oxygen of life was small, do the highest authorities in climate science agree that the rate of global warming decreased? The undeniable records, they do not support consensus theory. When oxygen of life was limited, global warming accelerated. Consensus climate theory is debunked by every highest authority. If the world slows the return of oxygen of life back to the atmosphere, global warming will accelerate. But surely, when oxygen of life was setting world records, global warming must have exploded. The right half of the graph will show what the highest authorities on global warming recorded after record rises in oxygen of life. First, showing again the normal annual rise of global temperatures from each climate center. And now, right after oxygen of life levels go wild, let's see the predicted apocalyptic temperature explosion. Brace yourself. Summarized are the verified records from the highest authorities in climate science. Cooling? What? When oxygen of life goes up the most, Earth cools. Consensus science got it completely backwards. The highest authorities in climate science all agree. More, not less, oxygen of life stops global warming. Or do you want to bet against 62 years of actual climate records? We can reverse global warming, green the Earth, save endangered species, and improve human life simply by using natural energy that restores oxygen of life back to our air so that life that cools can grow. It's that simple. Now do you understand the truth about oxygen of life and climate change? But how can some scientists be that far off? Well, it's the nature of science. It's actually quite common. Many climate scientists only focus on CO2's greenhouse warming property, not on its most powerful property, its effect on the growth of all life that cools the Earth. And they verify with models, not actual climate records like what you just saw. And no surprise, NASA is on the right track. They got me to dig deeper and ask the right questions. NASA's international team of 32 authors from 24 institutions found that over a span of 33 years, green leaf area increased by the size of the entire continent of South America, producing sugars using the heat of sunlight and oxygen of life, making the food, fiber, and fuel for life on Earth. More oxygen of life means more leaves, more solar heat turned into sugars, resulting in less solar heating of the atmosphere. And that study did not include 70% of the planet, where phytoplankton does the same in the oceans. Our biosphere wouldn't exist if oxygen of life didn't cool Earth. When solar rays get too hot, oceans release oxygen of life to green the Earth and cool the planet. This negative feedback is required for life to exist and has been happening for millions of years. We must help green the world. The analysis you just saw was basic, but there is a graduate level video, or if you want to understand why oxygen of life cools more than it warms, then expand the description of this video and you will find a list of resources. You deserve the truth. I hope you found that very interesting.